and rising young people and new people, and some of us older guys. Uh, so I like to listen to reaction videos, and if you listen to me, you may see that when I'm giving instructions and stuff like that, I may sound like I'm doing a reaction video. Okay, my attention span is great. I'm not illiterate. I do have some college, and I've actually had my own business, and I've been married. Um, so I'm kind of like a normal functioning guy. If I guess if I wanted to, I could figure out what my IQ is. I would be surprised if it wasn't 115 or above, and that's only because I used to think it was 130, but at this age, I probably lost a couple of brain cells. So I'm 15 brain cells. Okay. Uh, that's not that big of a deal. So anyway, the reason why I'm saying that is not to say I'm the smartest guy in the room. Hey, if you're the smartest person in your group, you're in a world of hurt. You know what I'm saying? So I like to listen to smart people. Their advice works. May it may not be instantly, but if their advice is well thought out, if it's from their experience, it's probably good advice. Okay, as opposed to someone your age, whatever your age is, even if you're 5 years younger than me, as opposed to someone your age who hasn't experienced stuff yet. Okay, all right, so I'm going to throw this out there and I'm going to see where it goes. If you feel differently, if you feel, if I'm offending you or something like that, I'm just saying what I heard. This, I did not make this up. It's the same thing with the Bible. I'm just telling you when I read the Bible what I read. So if you can, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, help me get 1,000 subscribers, and I'll subscribe back to your channel, and that'll be one more person that'll help you get closer to 1,000. Then what we can do is we can repeat that. If there is something that's successful, if you want to be successful, I mean, I understand go out, start your own business, find your niche. I understand that, but you can actually uh, repeat what successful people have already done. All right. And everybody who's successful, they started out pretty much the same as you were, just listening, trying to find your way through, navigate through this crazy world we live in. I'm sure that whenever they were doing their navigating, the people in the system was just as crazy then. The system that we're living in just didn't turn crazy. Okay. It's been crazy enough that it's actually come to the end of being a system and it's going to get some help. So I'll go over that a little later. Now, hey, I'm from here. I love it here. If I go to another country, I got to learn another language or basically just stay in the house or find somebody who uses my vernacular and hope that they're smart. Okay, and that's pretty much the gist of what I have to say about that. Because uh, when the Exodus starts, there's going to be all kinds of people in the Exodus. There's going to be some that's ready to go. Okay, we'll go over that a little later. And there's going to be some. that wasn't ready to go. There'll be some that thought that they could try it and see how it goes, and then if it didn't go so well, they could come back. So yeah. So you're dealing with a lot of different people just because of where you are. If you kind of go with everybody's on the same page, they probably aren't. Okay, you might be able to find something in common, but anyway, I digress. So I was watching this video. Um, I wrote down a note about Mary. I should have wrote down the name of the video, but sometimes when you see a reaction video from another creator, they it may not have their name on it, and if they do, it's way too small for me to read. Hello, you said, look at these glasses. 8 p.m. Easy. Where are you from? Oh boy, I'm from America, but I'm something. Oh, okay, all right. I'm from Pennsylvania. We neighbors. So, if that's where you're originally from, then I could go ahead and say what I'm getting ready to say. You can uh, say that you are from Ohio, or you can actually say that you are an ab with a dash original. Sometimes because of people's aphasia, they don't know that words mean has different uh, have different definitions. All right. So, for example, if I use Aboriginal without a dash, it's going to be something different than if I use ab dash original. Okay. So it's the same word, but they put that dash in it. Anyway, you're from Ohio. I don't have to tell you. Oh, good for you. Um, I guess it's in the morning, wherever you are, because uh, neighbors. So um, usually, whatever weather you guys get, we get r- a couple hours behind you. So when it was really nice. Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave. I'm Toby, 444, England, watching I Saw the Light. Good for you. People like you who indiscriminately are watching stuff like this, I want you to feel uh, like, like a spiritual person. You may find that spiritual people want to be liked. Spiritual people don't care if you like them. Spiritual people are sinners. Okay, but the spiritual people. Oh, okay. 7:30. All right, got it. 8 p.m. So, spiritual people may have all different levels, but if you are a spiritual person, chances are pretty good you'll watch a movie like I Saw the Light. Okay. And the people who aren't spiritual, when you talk to them, some of them may be kind and polite. Some of them may understand that you are trying to communicate with them uh, about something that's spiritual and stuff like that. There, we're going to go over that later. Okay, after we get past the introduction, and uh, I can I can quite possibly tell you why. Okay, so I was watching a reaction video, and the lady was from Pakistan. Okay, and I the reaction videos aren't really that long, and you don't get uh, a lot of context because it's a reaction video. And I'm not sure, but I think a reaction video time is 2 minutes or less, and they would call those a short video. You and I, APM, we are doing a live video. So this can go on as long as I'm talking, and I'll talk as long as you're listening. All right, because I want to get you uh, ready to be in the kingdom of heaven here on earth, because there is a difference. Okay, so go ahead and have your pancakes and sit down. We're going for a ride. I don't know if you like your pancakes stacked or if you like them separate. I never had to make that choice before, but I don't make pancakes. Okay, uh, it's too messy. I got this thing where um, I don't want to make anything that takes a lot of mess. So, for example, if I have dinner, I won't have three things. Have you ever noticed 2 p.m. that if you eat an apple, you're not really hungry? It takes care of the munchies. I don't know how long it takes to break down in our system, but hey, we used to believe an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So if you get a chance today, eat an apple. Okay. Bananas, not so much, because bananas is kind of like Chinese food. That's probably why they sell them to you in businesses without commercial. Okay. So store in your area, AP, then if there's another Chinese store, chances are pretty good that they're related. Okay. They have this little trick that I learned about because there was an incident with a person of color went to a store, and it was one of those for picking on to but I'll say that they were Koreans because they sell ha- convenience or whatever. They cut their hair off, and then at some point they want to start growing their hair again, or they want to make it look like they have their long hair. So that business is usually uh, booming. Now the problem is I wasn't there when these types of things were happening, but apparently people will go in there and steal. That's the only thing you have to be ready for if you go where the public frequents. Chances are pretty good someone is stealing. Okay, they got a security team. There's usually more than one security guard. Places, Kmart, Walmart, Costco's, places like, and they're watching you. Well, the Koreans are a little bit different. What they'll do is they'll follow you around. Okay. So anyway, this lady, I guess she was going to buy her mother some hair so that she could I don't know, I don't know why they would do that. I would never buy hair, but that's what people of color, some of their women will do that. They'll go buy hair. And if you're if you're not careful, you would never know. When I was coming up and I was a little bit active, or I was sowing my wild oats, hair what was an issue. So we didn't have that many bald head uh, women. I guess it just depends on what generation you're in. But we did have wigs. So, but not any that I was dealing with. At the age that I was dealing with them, from like 15 to 30, wearing wigs wasn't an issue. Now, after that, okay, they would clearly be wearing a wig. Okay. So, anyway, I digress. Digress just means I went down a rabbit trail. Not part of my subject, but I thought that if I said something, it would match whatever I was following. What Okay, so say that women in Pakistan, America, you figure. Each family has two or three kids in it, and you get 20 adults to show. What we might not be known for the generation that married their cousins. And I thank the Most High that religion played enough of a role in our lives to uh, not marry our cousins. Okay, but Pakistan, uh, they have religion too, but their religion apparently says it's okay for them to marry their cousins. Now, before you go, oh, I think that where they might have picked that up from was a term. It's called kinsman, Kinsmand, which would be a cousin. Okay, and back in the day, you could get killed just like now. They would unalive you for anything. Basically, back then they would unalive you because they're trying to rob you or something. Because uh, it wasn't like it is now. They didn't have a safety net, security, uh, jobs for everybody. No one left behind. They didn't have those type of policies. So when a woman's husband uh, got unalived, then a woman couldn't go get a job. Okay, so they would. Uh, so it was either marry your kinsman or starve to death. Okay, and do not become a woman of the street back then because it was kind of a catch 22. If you don't marry your cousin and if you are still active that way down there, um, they their religion frowned down on it. So uh, you're darned if you do, and you're darned if you don't. And you didn't have to be a religious person at that time to get that type of penalty. So since they could just go out and get a job in order to survive, they would have to marry their kinsman. So uh, when you get older, you may find that there are whole groups of people who believe it's okay to have more than one wife. Some of them call them a wife, and the other ones are concubines. So they have different roles. But again, that's like diversity and equity inclusion, DEA, which uh, technically the biggest employer of DEAI people is the government. Okay. Um, some of the corporations would do it, but the corporations that do it, if they receive any funds from the federal government, they have to follow the rules of the federal government. Okay, I did not know that. Okay, so sweet or savory. Okay, um, so they would have DEI. Okay, okay, so how you know at 8 p.m. I'll probably only do an hour. Then I'll walk up and I'll get another coffee, and then I'll come back and I'll do a live on Facebook. So you make sure you have a good day. Nobody is responsible for it. I want you to be the weird guy or the weird gal and enjoy enjoy your day. When we were younger, we used to make. I mean, not me, but we used to make mud pies, and some of us had imaginary friends. All of us weren't on sports teams and stuff like that. And we didn't have video games. Okay, I did as we got older, but so we kind of entertained ourselves. Okay, and most of us were perfectly fine being loners. Okay, nowadays, you guys have loners, but they have the crutch where they could play games. Okay, see you 8 p.m. Make it a great day. Okay, okay. It, it's up to you, not others. If it's up to others, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll be back on Wednesday. Okay, so Pakistan women marry their cousins, and the children know that. So at some point, uh, every little kid is going to ask their mom, "What's your real name? Uh, what's my dad's real name? Where are you from?" They have a general curiosity about their parents, and one of the reasons why is because they spend most of their time with their parents. Okay, so the same thing in other countries. All right. So when I found that out today, it matched what I was actually going to bring out in the Bible. Okay, my ears will perk up if I hear anything about the book of Ezekiel, the book of Daniel, and the book of Revelation. These three books are telling you the future. Okay, at any time in history, if you read any of these books, it was telling you about the future. So we call them prophecies. That's where that came from. Sometimes the prophecies were immediate, but other times the prophecies were speaking to people like us in 2026. You know, the prophecy may not say 2026, it may say something else. It may say something like the end times or the last days. That's what those types of scriptures mean. Okay, young people. So once you get a picture of who's saying what, then um, it'll be easier to understand the Bible. So the way I look at it and would help me take off with Bible studies and having a understanding of the Bible. I didn't start out, I don't think, saying, "Oh, but man, I don't understand how to read the King James Version Bible." I don't think I started out like that, but I do know that there are people who read the Bible and they think that it's hard to understand. All right, and I think that it depends on where you start reading the Bible that determines whether or not you're going to. I recommend that you start reading the Bible, and I want you to read the red words first. They're all the way toward the back. Okay, and kind of kind of ease your way into a church. And I'll tell you why I keep referring to church and maybe religion. Okay. Now, even though church and religion has a bad reputation now, back then it was not so. All right. And if it was, they weren't really talking about it. All right. Because uh, at any point, what is anybody going to say about the church if their main goal is to help? Okay. Okay. So, anyway, Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 1. Then he cried in mine ears with a loud voice. All right. So when I read Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 1, I'm like, who cried? Okay. All right. Then he cried in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, "Cause them that have charge over the city." Okay. So enter your city here. If you're from Ohio and if they have cities in Ohio, um, put your city in there. If it's a borough, if it's township or whatever. Enter that city n- name in there. Now, this is how you read the Bible, okay? So, for example, then he cried in mine ears. So that's two people are talking, all right? And one of them is loud, and it's the type of it's the type of loud where the person is upset, all right? So there's several kinds of loud. When little kids play, their loud has screaming in it and stuff like that here. But this type of loud cry, uh, it would get your attention. Okay, if somebody uninterested or uninvolved would hear that, they would their ears would perk up. Let's go, oh, geez, what's going on over here? Okay, so and then he cried in my ears with a loud voice. So that's the first person talking to the second person, saying, "Cause them that have charge over the city." So now you got to figure the name of the place that you uh, switched. Uh, who is in charge of the city? Okay, so we're not going to say that the cops are necessarily in charge of the city, but they probably should be representing the people, protect and serve. But don't be surprised when you find out it's not actually that way. I was way up in age before I figured out that a police officer actually cannot come in your house. I did not know that. If they do, they have to have a warrant. I did not know that. All right. So they're not actually in charge. They have to be sent. All right. They are under authority. And they come across you like you are under their authority. So this is where the problem starts because they allow themselves to be seen as protecting and serving, which they do try. I'll give them that. Hey, my song, my song. Hi, or Grand Rising. Okay, so I'm causing them that have charge over the city to draw near, every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. Back then, they probably only had bats and uh, tree limbs and stuff that they could, just pick up off the street, rocks. They didn't have stitches or switches or whatever we have now. All right. But the person who's doing the hollering is, I'm telling somebody, saying, causing them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. So, in other words, don't come empty handed because he's upset and he's getting ready to do something. So, for example, every policeman got a gun. Okay, so whenever they show up, they're going to show up with their destroying weapons in their hand. Okay, so kind of look at it like that. So I skipped a couple of verses and I went down to verse 4. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of Jerusalem, not Israel. Okay. Um, I when I was going to church, when I was religious, I I, I don't remember which I heard the most of, Israel or um, Jerusalem. But I kind of focused on Jerusalem because that's where the tomb of the one that you guys call Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not trying to be some kind of scholar and say the one you call Jesus Christ. And I also don't want to come across like one of those people that in the last days will be offended by his name or something. All right. Because everybody knows and have heard that Every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. So Jesus, his last name is not Christ. All right. So Jesus Christ was what he was doing. All right. So kind of look at it like that. And then anytime you hear Jesus, it's talking about him. And that is going to be the religious part. All right. Because if you celebrate Christmas, you know about the baby in the cradle and the mother and the father had to stay in a stable or in a barn. And they put the baby in a stable or something like that there. And, pretty much the Christmas story. Okay. It may say something about his name Jesus, but if you pay attention, uh, when his mother and father were at the manger, well, just before then, the angel said, "Fear not," because whenever angels show up, you be kind of like, you're, oh boy, your mouth should drop to the floor. You know what I'm saying? Because some of them are quite terrifying to see. You'll find that out in the Book of Revelation. And I don't. Yeah, yeah. I'll stop there. Okay. So the night before he was born, the angel said, "Fear not. I have tidings of great joy unto you. A Savior is born, and you shall call his name Emmanuel, Prince of Peace, the everlasting Father." Okay. He is the King of Kings. Okay. So if you say King of Kings, that would be the same as saying Jesus Christ. All right. But uh, not, but it's the same thing to show you that there is a king and there are other kings. So there is Jesus. All right. So anyway, kind of look at it like that. And I know we've only read only a verse and a half, and I've been going at this for 10 or 20 minutes. Okay. So I'm trying to give you a picture of what you're going to run into. You'll hear things like that, you'll read things like that because you're going to be interested. And of course, one of the main reasons for religion and churches and stuff is to learn about Jesus, the Christ. Okay, so I'm not really sure. People say that um, that story um, that talks about his birth might have been written by um, a certain kind of person. Okay. It could have been written by a person of color. It could have been written by a non-melanated person. It could be. It could have been written by a Greek. All right. So when they got to naming uh, this particular night or talk this particular night, Oh Holy Night, the name Emmanuel is supposed to mean um, Jesus. So whoever was, I don't know. I don't know. Whenever they wrote it, they said Emmanuel. So whoever heard it, to them, that meant Jesus. That's the only way to look at it, to be at peace with that. Because some will say, well, if you say Emmanuel and if you say Jesus, you're talking about the same person. Okay. And I just don't believe that that is true. Okay. But anyway, I digress. And the Lord said unto him, "Go through the midst of Jerusalem." So now we know that the two people that are uh, talked about in these two scriptures, one of them is the Lord, and He's going to be the one with the loudest voice. Okay, so that's you. You want to get a relationship with Him, okay? Because when He decides to do something, it's over. Okay. There's no, uh, oh, give me one more chance. At that point, he's not even thinking that. That's not even on the table because you should have known. There's no reason why you don't know him. All right, because uh, that's not how he rolls. All right, anybody that he put down here knows him. Okay, so he put you down here. You know him. All right, you may not know him like the people, boy, who give what we call testimonies, or they tell you their story, or whatever. You may not know him that way. He may not have done for you some of the things that people say is a miracle for you, but you will still know him. Um, I don't know what happened, but the majority of the people will look around and it never will dawn on them who created this, or it may not dawn on them to say that. Well, who created this, or where did this all come from? Man, they went as far back as saying uh, two atoms collided and built the Earth and the universe and stuff like that. There, but the Bible, I like the King James Version Bible, clearly tells you where it was from, who made it, and if you study the Bible in a religious way, you may find out uh, how that happened. Okay, so you may not figure that out the first time you read it. All right, but it's so if you get into a religious setting, I find right now I got two people, and they may come in. They may have come in. People are people. They just people are people. They just okay. So anyway, and the Lord said unto him, "Go through the midst of Jerusalem and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh, and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst." All right. So here is your forehead, or K-A-N. So Cain and Abel. Uh, so Cain and Abel uh, were brothers. He didn't mean to do it, even though it is depicted like he might have went out to do that to his brother. So I think it was a crime of opportunity because they were getting along fine. Okay, gave the same offerings, and unless it was the first offering talked about in the Bible, they always gave the same offerings because back then, one of the things that you would do, your way of going to church would be to give an offering. Okay, so back then, uh, it didn't go so well for Abel. Okay, that's how you can always remember which brother, because Abel, he was the one who was what? Able to give the correct sacrifice. And the one who can't give a good sacrifice is Cain. Get it? Cain can't. Abel. Okay. So you can kind of look at them like that. Okay. So remember, now in the book of Ezekiel, they're talking about the same mark. All right. Because when the first mark was given, the instruction was, and let all who see this know that they are not to harm you. He uses the mark in your forehead to protect you. Some say it's a cross. Okay. And back then, a cross was not um, bad. All right. So even though churches have a bad rep now, they didn't always have a bad rep. Okay. They used to have a pretty good reputation. The sign of the cross, so it was a good thing. And now in 2026, now people wear this thing upside down, and there's no telling. what it means to the person who sees it. So if you're wondering why people ain't crazy about you wearing your cross and stuff like that, it's because it means different things to different people. If it meant the same thing, if it meant that you were being protected by the one that cries in a loud voice, then he cried in mine ears with a loud voice. All right. He's the one who made this symbol, this cross. That's where it came from. It didn't come from man. Okay. All right. So back then they had a bunch of symbols, but they probably didn't have a cross. All right. Because, they weren't around that much. So the cross has to be something that's kind of set apart. Just like if you see somebody wearing one, it's pretty safe to say that they are Christians. But the problem with being a Christian is the same thing that people are going to find about Jesus is they started out with a good reputation, but as time went on, the squeakers, all right, the ones who can't find anything good in anything, they uh, kind of gave it a bad name. Okay, all right. So, and the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of Jerusalem and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in their midst. I mean, if you see something, say something. Okay. Back then, they would see something and that they would cry. Kind of look at it like that. Okay. And so that was verse 4. Ezekiel 9, verse 4. Okay. Ezekiel 9, verse 6. So I skipped verse 5. Say utterly, old and young. All right. So slay utterly, old and young. And he's done this um, a couple of times. So you're kind of getting the idea here that when he says to do something, okay, it's usually for everyone. Okay, if he's cries, then he cried in mine ears with a loud voice. Chances are pretty good that something like this is going to come after. Say utterly. I'm sorry. Slay utterly, old and young, both maids and little children. Just like I told you at the beginning, Pakistan marry their cousins. All right. And little kids know that. It's probably part of their aspirations is when they get older, they're going to marry their cousin. They probably had a favorite cousin or something like that. There, you know how it was when you were growing up. Your cousins would always come around. Okay, usually when they needed to be babysitted. But I digress. When they get a little older, they may come around on their own, all right, for a picnic or something like that. But technically, in 2026, if the kids are visiting or coming over, it's because somebody needs a babysitter. All right. So anyway, and our children don't think that they're going to marry their cousins. That's not part of our. Uh, that's not part of our religion. All right, that's not part of our religion. But it says, um, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children. So don't be one of those, hey, don't you have to reach an age of accountability before the creator of heaven and earth finds you guilty of something? I wouldn't, I wouldn't, I wouldn't bet on that, right? Because he says right here, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. All right. Come not near any man upon whom is the mark. Right. So he means this mark. All right. So you could have one of those. It's actually even called a birthmark. So kind of look at it like that. So it doesn't have to be like cattle and somebody branded me right here. All right. It's a birthmark. All right. So I was kind of born with it. All right. Any man upon whom the upon whom is the mark, and begin at the sanctuary. So here we go with my inference. Hey, Hasalek, Grand Rising. I am from Pennsylvania, the United States of America, not Washington, D.C. So whatever you have against America, I want you to know that it is two separate places. Washington, D.C. is not part of America. Okay. So I'm an American. Okay. And begin at the sanctuary. So the sanctuary in this case would be what we have in 2026 as the church. Now, you guys know this. You have this sort of thing wherever you're going, but if you're having problems understanding it, maybe I could throw a little light on it. So Lord knows there's enough shade that's been thrown on it. But the sanctuary was always a good place. Okay. The church used to always be a good place. Okay. But, um, all right. Then they began at the ancient men, which were before the house. All right. So the older people may have the established a relationship in the church. They're probably first teachers, evangelists, the people who help keep the church running. All right. So he would go with the older ones first. And the reason why you would want to do that is because the older ones are the role models back then. All right. Even though up here in verse 4, it says, And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of Jerusalem and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abomination that is being done in the midst. All right. So that's verse 4. So these are people who can't do anything. All right. These are people who probably wouldn't do anything unless, in verse 1, then he cried in mine ears with a loud voice, saying, Cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. Okay. So that's what the people of the sanctuary were like. If they didn't get this type of voice, they weren't out there doing anything about the corruption, like the Pope. He said something to the Orange Man a couple of days ago. I don't remember exactly when he said it, but the Pope is supposed to be a representation, a, a man representing Christ here on earth. Okay, so yeah, then there's that. So you're going to have to work your way through that. But I personally, when it comes to the Pope, unless I'm in his presence, I don't feel that I should be looking at him like he's a representation of Christ. If I come around him and if I that, okay, well, uh, it's on. Okay. So anyway, so verse 6, slay utterly, old and young, both maids and little children and women. All right, so maids are girls, probably under 13. All right, and or around like in between, yeah, yeah, like 13, and little children and women. All right, so the maids and little children. All right, they could be under 13, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark. All right, and where did the mark come from? Right, it was one of these that I already read. I think it was Ezekiel 9, verse 4. And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of Jerusalem and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abomination that be done in the midst. So those are going to be people in the sanctuary. Okay. And but he sent someone in first to give them the mark. So for the ones that didn't have the birthmark, okay, um, now they're going to get the mark, okay, which is usually a cross. So I think some people actually do like this. So there is an understanding of that. All right. So make the bigger cross, not in the forehead. They start at the forehead. And they'll go like this. All right. Making the sign of the cross. So that's what that means. That's their semblance of they are part of a sanctuary. Okay. And begin at the sanctuary. So now he's sending them after that. He said, okay, mark them on their foreheads. And then everyone who didn't get the mark, you're going to know who they are because you just went in there and marked the people. So it's not like you're going in there, you don't know who's who. All right. That you're going to give them the mark and then you'll be like, okay, everybody on the Lord's side that has the mark, come over here. And everyone who was not on the Lord's side, well, then, yeah, you could kind of see how this is going. Okay. But now they're going to start at the sanctuary, so they're already there. In verse 4, they're already there. And in verse 5, now it's time to do what they came there to do. Why is the creator of heaven and earth, why does he allow so much violence and uh, death? Well, just because you're looking at somebody, they're like a kid. Everybody likes the little kid reaction videos. But the problem is you might not have watched a movie called The Bad Seed. And some kids are just bad. They are just bad. And you got to kill them because if you don't, they're going to grow up and they're going to be killers. So the creator of heaven and earth would know that. Okay. If you go into the sanctuary, you put the mark on the people's heads, then you would know the ones that didn't have the mark. So you would know which ones to kill. So just because everybody in the sanctuary or everybody in the church is not saved. Okay. It was a pretty cool place to go and get something to eat, probably some water because they would be um, hospitable, but they wouldn't have the same thing in mind. All right, they just went there to get something to eat, and all of a sudden these guys showed up talking about, okay, everyone's on the Lord's side, come over here. Okay, they probably would not have been expecting it that day. And the people who were in the sanctuary probably wouldn't um, expected it either. So um, the people who didn't get the mark are kind of like the people who take advantage of people. Okay, you'll read a little later that people who come into the sanctuaries or come into churches, they're supposed to bring an offering. Okay, so that there will be meat in the house. So all right. So some of that meat will go toward people who are hungry. All right. That's kind of what he does. That's his thing. All right. Then they began at the ancient men, which were before the house. So the only thing that I could see is if you just learned that Pakistanians marry their cousins and it's a way of life, well, kind of look at it like this. You can't say that the kids are innocent. All right. Number one, because the creator of heaven and earth knows that they are not. Okay. So you can't keep going around saying, well, if he's a loving God, why does he kill the kids? Because he knows that those kids would uh, be expecting and been subjected to marrying of their cousins. And once it's in there, it's in there. If you have anyone who's in any of the alphabet communities, they'll tell you that that's how they felt since they were uh, kids. All right. So you don't just wake up one day and just come out of the closet. All right. If you were in the closet, people may not have known that you were willing to marry your cousin. Okay. But you know that you would marry your cousin. Okay. So then all of a sudden you come out of the closet. Men who have change of life or something like that. Is it called change of life for men? I know it's called change of life for women, but is it called change of life for men? Okay. Um, when they all of a sudden decide that they're going to, do something down there, uh, they kind of always wanted it. Okay. It's always been there. And in the 21st century now, you can do that at a level that I don't think any other group of people have been able to do that. Okay. They may be able to dress them up. You can dress up a pig, but it's still a pig. All right. So you can come across as masculine or really, really feminine. You can dress a pig, but you can't. Um, it's still a pig. All right. So uh, everybody wants to be accepted. It's coming down to the wire here in 2026 that the ones who uh, didn't ask for help with that, okay, they may be in the sanctuary if the sanctuary even let them in, okay. Then they began at the ancient men, which were before the house or the bosses or preachers, pastors, teachers, or evangelists who should know. In 2026, well, so I'm sorry, I'm watching somebody almost have an accident. Okay, so in the 21st century, uh, the people who are out of the closet, they still want to go into the sanctuary. Okay, and the they began at the ancient men, which were before the house. So the ancient men should know that this is probably not the best place for them. Not because they are all together um, against them, because it could be a family member. You ain't gonna be all bent out of shape because your family member is coming out of a closet or something. M- Most people in the 21st century are happy for you. Not enough to change what they're doing. Not enough for them to, be like, you know what, I want to try that. No, that's not the way it's supposed to go, and especially if you're old enough to know better. Okay. And the knowing better, I mean, is what were you assigned at birth? Then that's what you is. You came in this world uh, the same way. You're going to go out of this world. Okay. And the only indication, I think, after you, uh, you know, um, they could tell what you were if you don't have any skin on your bones or if you're a dry bone or something. I think they could tell because of the way your hips are shaped or something like that. You know how women have bigger hips, so they're probably going to have bigger hip bones than men. Okay. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So right now, during the 21st century, it's going right back to the Bible and biblical times. So places over there are places that are mentioned in the Bible, and some specific things were said about these specific places that are going to have some specific things happen. and it's going to be a lot like what we said in verse 4. Right. So, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at the sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Okay, so that's what they're supposed to get in the 21st century. So, uh, when you hear that the Orange Man sent some people on an excursion overseas, and one of the first things they did was blew up a school. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I heard. I can't say that he intended that. I can't say that that was his orders. Hey, whenever you go over there, the first place I want you to blow up is the school of kids. All right. So, but that's what is going to happen. So you see that he already, uh, it was one of the first things that was mentioned here in verse 6. So utterly, slay utterly, old and young, both maids and little children and women. Okay, so that was a terrible thing to have happen because of the connection we have and the love that we have for any child anywhere. But that is part of what the creator of heaven and earth has kind of set an example for. So for our country, hey, look, I'm not trying to justify it or anything. They have done this sort of thing on their own. They didn't need uh, America to come in and be like, no, this is how you're supposed to do it. Kill all the kids. Okay. So they would have already done something like that. Right. The ones with guns makes the rules. The old saying is, he who owns the gold makes the rules. Okay. So anyway, in some of those other countries, the ones with the guns are the boss. At least the boss while they're there. Okay. For those who are clinging to their life. All right. There's a difference when you bow down to a man and when you get knocked down because you're not bowing down. There's a difference. All right. You both are going to end up on the ground, but um, at least be the person who got knocked down. Don't just give in. Don't give up. Keep going. I have a case coming up, or I'm still in this case. I've been in it for about 2 years, or about a year and a half. I got this case. It's cut and dry. However, uh, I began to fight back. So instead of it ending, it is still going on. Okay, because I didn't give up, and I actually found something that uh, gave them a pause. So I'm going to be the type of person that's going to get knocked down. Okay, well um, we call it railroading. Okay, so I already know, right? But I'm marked, so they cannot hurt me. That was one of the messages I got from a angel that I think is trying to communicate with me. Or there were several different angels; they got different things to say. Just like somebody just said something to Ezekiel up there in verse with a loud cry. All right, that um, I won't be that these angels won't let them hurt me. Okay, so uh, technically, what do I have to lose? Okay, so if I had gave in, then I would have been eligible for the protection of the Creator and heaven and earth. But the angel was like, "No, don't um, worry. We got you. We're not going to allow them to hurt you." So that kind of changes your thinking. when you know that you have the protection, either here or you have it, um, or you're going to get it because the angel is on its way to mark you for protection. Okay, so that's my story. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like the video and subscribe to the video. Help me get 1,000 subscribers. At the rate I'm going now, it might be it might take a minute because I don't think I have 300 yet. But there was a time when I didn't have 300, so I can see that yeah, it's possible. I can get a 1,000 subscribers without all the fancy videos and the CGIs and without all that. I can get 1,000, and hey, of course, I could also probably get uh, 10,000 if easy enough. The world is so vast, and every day there's someone who wants to talk about this Bible. Every day, it may be the same people that you see when you're walking down the street. It could be the people that you meet in your neighborhood. It could be people that you meet whenever you go overseas on a vacation or something. Somebody always wants to know about this Bible. There was a eunuch. A eunuch is a person who works for the king, and he has a specific job, and he has to protect the women. Plus, he has other stuff that he has to do. But there's a problem. Men invariably will catch a case if they're working around women. They'll invariably catch a case if they work around children, but they almost invariably will catch a case if they work around women. So what they decided to do back in them days was make those guys eunuchs. So there wasn't a eunuch school. You were let's just say you were recruited to be a eunuch, and your job would be to protect the women. So, he one of these eunuchs were sitting on a camel. I don't know if you have ever seen one in real life, but they're huge. Okay, they are bigger than a horse. All right, so if you're thinking a horse and a camel, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as a horse. No, okay, their feet are different. They're bigger. They can carry bigger loads. Okay. Now, a horse is probably as fast as a camel, but I think if the camel put his mind to it, he could probably outrun the horse or last longer than the horse in the camel and horse environment. Okay. And I'm sitting here reading. Okay. He was dressed pretty nice because if you became a eunuch, then the person who eunuchized you would um, would be saying, "Hey, look, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life." All right, but I don't want to raise your sons and daughters. So they came up with a way where that could be done if the person agreed to be a unit. Okay, and you would have to agree. There wouldn't be any point in taking prisoners and making them eunuchs because they are already pissed off at you. So that's how they became prisoners. So you might not want to use those. So you might want to use the ones that volunteer to be taken care of. All right, kind of like in the 21st century. And now calm down, calm down. But the closest thing that we would have is would probably be like the welfare system, how people are taken care of all their life on the welfare system. And I got to tell you, you don't really get that much on it. So uh, then they pay you once a month, and even if they pay you twice a month, you're just not getting that much. Okay, so if you decide to have someone take care of you, chances are pretty good you're never going to take a 2 week vacation. Okay, that's just out of the question. All right, because you shouldn't have enough unless you're really good with money or you're living with someone and they are also kind of taking care of you. All right. So, for example, if you're going to take care of your mom and dad in their older years, they're going to have what is known as income. But the way it's set up, um, you can actually have an opportunity to take vacation. All right. Okay. But the ones who are on the public assistance th- all their lives, chances are pretty good that they're not going to be able to take a vacation because they've elected to have someone take care of them all their lives. Now, that could be because they want to control you, so they'll do it like this. All right, we'll give you uh, a little more than you're going to get from the person who you're involved with. So, for example, invariably, when people uh, first hook up, they're at a younger age and they might not have good jobs. All right. They probably don't have a career because of their age. They're kind of just getting started. By the time, whenever you start sowing your wild oats, you're not really that old, right? Some of them start way younger. People are looking at the perverts and attribute to them the reason why women are getting pregnated at such a young age, you might want to put that on because of the older men. That's not so. Okay, is them boys doing that with them fast girls, and that might not be a group that you are familiar with, but there's a bunch of them. Okay, that's why it said kill all the men, the women, the boys, the girls, the children. All right, because you start doing that. All right, and that's a terrible thing. They may think that, well, everybody does it, or you did it whenever you were my age. Well, that's fine, but we got a relationship together with the creator of heaven and earth. So, in theory, we shouldn't still be doing it. Okay. And you know what that is. All right. So, anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I don't see any commercials. Make it, make sure if you do it now, you won't have to worry about it later. But like the video, and subscribe to my channel so that I can get 1,000 subscribers and I could possibly do this every day and make a couple bucks for it. If you can, if you got a couple extra bucks before Babylon falls, I want you to invest in something. Okay. We don't know when Babylon is going to fall, but when it falls, you won't be able to hold it up. Okay, it's going to come crumbling down. And the thing about a crumbling anything is, you can't stop everything. If I crumble, if I crunch up a cookie and throw it at you, some of that cookie is going to get on you. So kind of look at it like that. It's not the same as if I just took a cookie and um, spun it at you like a disc. You could probably knock that out of the air. But if I break it up, throw it at you, I might not be able to knock you out, but you can still get some crumbs on you. See what I'm saying? I'm just trying to give you another way to look at it. So, Babylon and what's going on over in the Middle East, all these things went in a complete circle, and we're right back to where the problem started. Okay, in the Middle East. Now, um, the Middle East, kind of look at it like this is where the kingdom of heaven got started because Adam and Eve was placed in the garden. So the garden would be the kingdom of heaven, and by description and by mapping, that's where all this stuff happened. All right. I heard that whenever they were asked to leave, the description of the area was four rivers coming out. But I remember hearing something uh, the day before yesterday or whatever. There is seven rivers, so there's four coming out of it, and they turn into seven rivers. You could call them attributes or attributes, tributaries, or something like that. So I heard that. I thought that was pretty interesting. I really should get a map, okay? Because I'm really not sure where these places are, but I did have a chance to go over there. And one of the things I would have liked to have done was went to the tomb, that famous tomb on uh, the side of Golgotha, okay? Which was a weird place for a rich person to decide to, to put his tomb. All right, so back then, you would pay for your tomb, and uh, I guess you could loan it off to somebody. The way they did it was they would put you in a tomb for 3 days or something like that there, and then come in and clean your body off because all your functions are going to release or whatever. Then they come and clean you up, and then they would bury you somewhere. So he isn't buried in the tomb, okay? But that tomb was reserved for a rich person. Okay, they paid for it in advance. So anyway, so we went full circle. Now we're right back to where the problem started. There was two, uh, let's just say two kingdoms: the kingdom of heaven here on earth, and technically, I could say the kingdom of darkness existing at the same time. And chances are pretty good was that the kingdom of darkness was here first. This is why when he created the heavens and the earth, the first thing he uh, created was light. So it was all dark down there. All right, so kind of look at it like that. But there were people who lived in the dark, okay, or angels, fallen angels, or whatever. They didn't really. They could probably see in the dark or whatever. And they were angels after all. So but so back when Adam and Eve here, what were here, there were two kingdoms. The one that they were in the garden, it's a kingdom because he would come down in the cool of every evening and talk to Adam and Eve. And one day, the deceiver or the person from the kingdom of darkness found a way in. I mean, it wasn't that hard to find where it was because it was probably well lit. Hello, because of the sun what was there. So there's a black sun and there's a yellow sun. You're going to learn all this stuff. But I want you to remember why you started because you want to put yourself in a position to be considered uh, that you are in the kingdom of heaven here on earth. So you can practice what it would be like when you're in the kingdom of heaven. So Um, if you go to your grandma church, your grandma went there, and her mama probably went there. People who go to church, a lot of them have always went to church. All right, so they've always been in the kingdom of light. Like we said in verse 4, start with the men of old or old men or whatever, chopping them up or marking them or whatever was the order at that particular time. So it was people who were always in the church, plus people who came along as time went on. Since the church was there, somebody was curious how come the people who are in the sanctuary seem to be doing better than us. Okay, we're the cool kids. You know. All right. So anyway, I digress. So that's my story. I try to give you guys a chance to put some questions out there. So anyway, don't feel bad if you don't have any today. Maybe you'll have some Wednesday. So we'll see you Wednesday in the AM. Don't give up. Don't give in. It gets better. It it will still be cold. It'll still rain. It'll still be hot on you, but it it gets better. The closer you get, being on the outside of the kingdom of heaven, it's kind of scary because you can hear those, weird noises and coming from the dark. All right, and you might tip over there and see what's happening because people are curious. Curiosity killed the cat, and that's probably what happened to Adam and Eve. They just got curious, and that brought them to the kingdom of heaven here on earth. The Bible says, "What you do in the dark will be brought to the light." So don't be tipping. Get in. Don't just get your toe wet. Get in this kingdom, so that you're ready for whatever happens. You don't have to pray that there's peace in the Middle East. You don't have to do that. You don't have to worry about getting all blowed up because you are in the kingdom of heaven, and He marked you, and He meant that, and you will be protected. Yes, even if you are a sinner. Yes, even if you sin. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend those two things because he will correct that. All right. Okay. That's one of the things I'm going to say to my judge because everybody gets a chance to speak on their behalf. And I explain to him that two wrongs don't make a right, just to see what he's going to say. All right, because there'll be people will be listening. Okay, so he'll probably think about his answer before he responds. All right. So anyway, that's my story. Don't give up. Don't get in. Don't give in. I'm telling you, he loves you. And it's different than when you look at it. When you look at someone being loved by something that you can't see. When you hear someone talking about love and you don't know what they're talking about. But most of us just want to get you curious enough because we all have curiosity. If you're curious about the kingdom of heaven here on earth, I hope that I would say something that'll make you curious and come on in. Once you get in, you'll know because you'll start crying. Anyway, I digress. You might not start crying. All right, so that's my story. Love you all.